Hello, my friends, and welcome to Take a Deep Breath podcast. My name is Mike Maher. I'm going to be your breathwork coach and host. And today I have my good friend David Jackson, Jacko, on the podcast. And I met Jacko in Ireland last year. He's a Master Oxygen Advantage Instructor, an ex-professional rugby player. And he's got a really interesting story. Bit of tragedy in there, some brain issues that happened on the rugby pitch, and he discovered the breath. And he's a lovely guy, and not what I think of when I think of rugby players, scary big men. I couldn't be a rugby player. I tried when I was a kid, it didn't end very well. And he's a lovely guy, and I got to hang out with him in Ireland and his wife. We did a podcast, a live one on Instagram a little while ago, and Jacko did this incredibly amazing and scary and wonderful thing where he did this thing called a ring of fire, where he basically ran 200 kilometers, 216 kilometers in 3 days. And the documentary just came out. So I wanted to get this podcast timed as best I could for that. So if you could do me a favor, after you've watched this conversation or listened to it, if you could then click on these links below in the show notes or in the description and check out Jacko's beautiful, emotional documentary about how and why he completed this grueling nasal run. Very inspiring, very, very inspiring. So I'm proud to say he's a friend. I think this guy is wonderful. He is a functional breathing guru. He's got his own app out. I've put all of his links down below. Jacko, I hope you're well. You're an inspiration, my friend. So keep doing what you're doing. And everybody enjoy the Breathcast. There we go. Cheers. How you doing today? You all right?
Yes, no, very good. Always excited to talk to you and also to talk about breath. So there's two lovely things to pin together.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about this conversation because there's just so many bits that we're going to get to talk about today. And I want to talk about a bit about your backstory. I want to talk about Ring of Fire for people. I want to talk a bit about your rugby career. There's so many areas. I don't know how we'll try and squeeze as much as we can into the next hour. Let's start, mate, if you don't mind. Like, what was your first like dabble with like conscious breathing, where you started to do breathing exercises or became aware of the breath? That might be a good place to start. Where was that for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost difficult to go when that was, but I can remember an instant when I was told, like actually that it's almost like, like in Star Wars, and then they did like the pre, what do they call it when it's like they've brought all them new Star Wars. I'm going on a massive tangent here. Basically, I'm going to answer your question by even going before what you even asked for in the question. In that, I remember I'd injured my shoulder or something, and I was the physio at the gym, had a session, and she was like looking at my shoulder, and then she started working further down the chain. And at this point, I understood from a strength and conditioning perspective, like kinetic chain principles, as in like one part of your body can affect another part of the body. It's connected by fascia and all things. But I was a bit short-sighted or minded at that point and immature. And she got down worked down the chain through the chest, like down towards my diaphragm. She was like, gosh, your diaphragm. She was like, you really need to do some work on this. And I was like, not interested. My shoulder hurts. Treat my shoulder. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was a few years after I retired from rugby 2013. So this was maybe like 2015, 16, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was a couple of years after that, that I'd come across some research that was showing the relationship between brain injuries and dysfunctional breathing, or your respiratory center in the brainstem being affected by concussions, by brain injuries. And I'd had quite a severe brain injury that ended my rugby career in 2013. And I thought I'd made a full recovery, but it always felt to me like the handbrake was slightly on. That's how I sort of describe it. Like, it's like I'm going, but there's something just slightly holding me back. And I was searching for something at the same time. And I'm coming around this research and being like, well, breathing, you do that a lot. What if you're doing it just a little bit wrong? Just the sheer number of repetitions you do per day, like the cumulative buildup of that's going to be quite big. And I was looking for something. Maybe there's something going on in the background that's affecting like lots of aspects of me because I'm getting loads of injuries and these types of things. And so I was eager and I was curious, let's say. And then when it was sort of, then as you do, you start following anyone to do with sort of breathing and stuff. I actually my door into the Oxygen Advantage was Richie Norton. He was called himself, he was the strength temp at that time. We'd had him on our podcast. I went to one of his workshops, his yoga instructor as well. And he did this workshop where it was like, it was a bit of yoga, but it was a bit of breath work. There's a little bit of sort of hyperventilation as well as like some of the slower breath holding stuff. So a bit of a mixture. And I was just like, oh gosh, I've like, what, all this stuff. I was like, it's sort of like, okay, you've made us do this breathing thing and that breathing thing. I found that really hard. Like, maybe I'm really rubbish at breathing. Maybe my brain injury has affected my breathing. Like I need to know more about this. Like there's something else going on than just, you don't need to worry about your breathing. It just happens on its own. It was more than that. And he was the one that said, look, get the Oxygen Advantage, read that book. It's a game changer. And, you know, I trusted him. And I thought he knows what he's talking about. And so I was like, when someone that you trust says, this book's a game changer, you buy it on Amazon immediately, it arrives, other bookstores are available, and you know, and you read it. And I read that things, I'm not good at reading. I didn't fail English at school, but I nearly did. I'm bad at English, I'm bad at reading. But I read that book the fastest I've ever read anything. And then I was just like going around shouting at everyone about how important it was that they were breathing through their nose and that type of thing. And I was really encapsulated by what Patrick McKeown, the author, done. I assume your listeners are au with Patrick's work, that, you know, he made it scientific but rational and easy enough to understand, but was able to like trust it based on the science and based on the research he was referencing. So me I've got like a scientific background, a degree in engineering. As someone with like sort of like quite an inquisitive mind and sort of thinking quite scientifically, I needed that for me to have the buy-in to then go and try something. I think I remember watch it or trying to listen to like a meditation on YouTube once, and like, you know, try it, like being like, I'm trying here, like I get it, people say you should do it, and trying it, and then just like the sound of the ocean in the background of this recording and listening. I lasted a few seconds and I just couldn't do it. I just turned it off, and I didn't get it, if you know what I mean. I needed to understand it first before then I would believe that it would work, and therefore then actually try and do it. So my own stupidity, I think, standing in the way, but that's just the way my mind works.
I think that's most people, you know. I struggle with meditate, and I still do. Meditation for me has took like many forms. And I really struggled with it for a long time. And then, but the good thing about adding the breath to it for me, it just gave you something else to focus on. But I think that's most of us, you know, do, because like we're all distracted to maximum degree with phones and the constant next shiny thing. But no, that's interesting. At what point then did you go from somebody that really enjoyed the book to go in, I want to be an instructor, or I want to do more? What was the next steps after that?
Yeah, I mean, so at that point, I was strength and conditioning coach. Working with Paralympic athletes towards we'd have done the Rio Games and we're working towards the Tokyo Games, which ended up getting put back a year, didn't they? And I remember having Patrick reached out to Patrick, had him on our podcast, just I love the Irish accent as well as just him. He's just such a nice bloke. It was just like, oh God, like I just sort of fell in love with him. In a safe way. He's fine. I've met him and we're still friends. It's not got weird yet. I did things like the bolt score. I was like 9 seconds. It was like, God. And then tried running, nasal breathing, and I just couldn't do it. And it was like the one time in my life where, rather than my ego saying, well, if you can't do it, it must just be a load of rubbish, I actually went, God, if I can't hold my breath for more than 9 seconds and have this like strong urge to breathe in, or if I can't breathe through my nose whilst I go out for a jog, like, and I've understood the science and everything behind, like, that should be normal. I was like, I need to do something about this, like for my health, for my brain rehabilitation, or the finishing of that, finishing the ongoing process. Can't finish that ongoing process of it. And I actually saw some really good improvements in my running initially. And that got me like really excited about it from a performance perspective. So that really got me into it. And then, I really struggled with like the breathing light, like the stillness and meditation of the breathing light. Whereas I got really into like the breath holding, and I saw loads of good benefits from that. But yeah, as time went on, I was just got to a bit of a sticking point with it after, say, a year or something. And I was like, I need to understand this better so that I can really reap the benefits. I feel like I'm not as experiencing this as quite as many benefits as Patrick's documenting. I'm seeing some, so I believe in it, but I don't think I'm doing all of the stuff right, and I don't fully understand it. So I actually just did the instructor training just because I wanted to understand it better. I had no desire to coach it. I mean, I don't even think at that time I was thinking, I might be able to use it with some of the athletes I'm working with. But you have to do 3 case studies to get certified. And I loved how simple the like practical application of it was. If I think of what I did with those 3 case study clients back then, like I'd laugh at it now, but only because you get better, you should get better as time goes on. But it would have all been good sound information, like breathe through your nose, be aware of your breathing, breathe with teach them how to breathe with the diaphragm. And I love the fact that it was just something that everyone does and everyone can benefit from. If I can help another individual breathe more efficiently, breathe better, like that is going to have an impact on a sliding scale from like life-changing, which is what some people say to you. You think, crikey, all I've done is teach you how to just teach your body to do what it actually knows how to do. I believe the body knows how to breathe. And our job as coaches is to just try to help them understand and then just take away some of those barriers or restrictions that have built up through habits or external factors over time. And so, yeah, I loved how simple it was. I loved it felt like a slightly more, I didn't realize this at the time. This is something that's been happening to me over the last, I don't know, year or so of just, it felt like, looking back at it now, it felt like it's a little bit more personal relationship in that, like, when you work in the gym as a strength and conditioning coach with an athlete, like, yeah, you'll get to know particularly when you're working one-on-one, you get to know the people well, and you're pretty close and you're in each other's face pretty much type of thing, and you might get hands-on in certain situations, like helping them with weights or whatever. But when you're helping someone work on something as delicate as just their breath, it just felt like a little bit of a deeper experience, or people would end up talking about things that make them stressed because they notice their breathing changes when they're stressed. It just felt a little bit more, I can't think of the word because I'm not very good at English, like I said, but a bit more like purposeful or life-changing, magical. I don't know. There was something in it that I just loved, and it was nice to feel like I was doing something that someone could use for the rest of their life until they take their last breath, and everyone's included. There's nobody that's not breathing. We're all the people that aren't breathing are dead. And so the work I was doing before was only with a certain type of athletic population. And I guess there was a bit of a desire in me of, I love helping people and I get a kick out of that. And then I'm one of those annoying type of people that when I learn something that's like really helped me, I can't help but like try to share it. So yeah, that's where it wasn't intentional, but it just rolled from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. I really enjoy it when people ask what I do, because it's one of those things where, like, no disrespect if you're an accountant or bookkeeper or whatever, they're all important roles. But I've got a cousin that's really quite big in the bookie world, the gambling world and stuff.
Yeah.
And so for some people that's really interesting, but for some people, I'm not a gambler, so it doesn't register on me. But with breathing, like I said, everyone's doing it. Yeah. So most people that when they ask you what you're doing, they kind of like, there's an intrigue there, there's a curiosity, and it normally leads to like a conversation. And then when you start opening up, like yesterday I was in the sauna area, and there was this big guy there. He's like in really good shape, and I was like, oh, what do you do? He goes, oh, I train kids how to box. I was like, oh, dude, what's the breathing techniques like? And he was like asking me, and he's like, oh, we go in. I hadn't heard it this way, because we go in through the mouth and out through the nose, because we've got the mouth guard in. I was like, oh, that's the complete opposite of what I've come across. I don't know if it's factually right or not, but that's how he's getting the air in and controlling their breath. I didn't have time to like pick at him to go, is that right? Could you do it a different way? But anyway, it just turned into like a bit of an interesting conversation. But
I almost get embarrassed in a way, because I feel like I had so many misconceptions myself about like breathing. Like, do you know, I was literally like, that physio was going into a diaphragm, and I was like, breathing now, whatever. Like, so I'm aware, probably hyper aware or very aware that people might be like that. So if someone asks what I do, I sort of like go, I almost don't really know what to say. I'm like, help people breathe better. You probably gonna think that's stupid. Like, but I promise you, it's not. I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting.
It's a funny. Although I do think like when we're talking like 10 years time, it's going to be such a more accepted things. Like somebody saying I'm a yoga instructor in like 1995 or something, that'd probably be like, what's that? That's like some weird thing from like a really far away country. Whereas now everybody I know knows somebody that's a yoga instructor. But oh, cool, man. So so you went through the training really for you, and then you started using it for your strength and conditioning. Cool. And then when was that? When did you do that training?
When did I do that? Was that 2019?
Right. Okay. So then sort of 3 years on, you're a master instructor now. So do you want to just explain what that kind of means? Because I think that's like a really privileged position that we're in with that title. So, but
I was, it meant I was very, very excited when I got that email. Essentially it means that we have been given the responsibility to primarily provide the certification for others under the guidance and under the umbrella of the Oxygen Advantage. So, you know, you can become certified breathwork instructor with the Oxygen Advantage with Patrick McKeon. Like that's how I did. I did it with him. But equally, there's a host of, I think there was like 40 odd of us that came together in Ireland recently or last year for the for a big event, and all over the world. So different master instructors in different parts of the world, and you can go and train with them. And each master instructor has a different skill set and a different sort of speciality, which you can lean into when you're delivering. Obviously, the core teachings is all the same. But yeah, that's a great privilege and quite a, feels like it is a big responsibility. As we record this now, I've done 2 courses so far, and I'm about in don't know when this will go out, but in January 2023 I'm doing my 3rd one. I've got some more planned for the 2023 year. And it's been something that I love working with clients, but then there's an element where I like variety in general, but I love working with other coaches. I love the mentoring aspect of it as well. And for me, it's not about get someone becoming certified. It's about someone really understanding what they're doing, understanding the coaching process, and actually creating, fantastic, confident or, fantastic Oxygen Advantage instructors that are confident to deliver, the amazing work that Patrick has done and sharing with the world, and just allow that to be shared wider, because there's so many people that need it. And we can't, if I go and teach as many people as I can, is X number, but if I can do that and teach some people to teach other people, then they might teach other people and teach it. That's how it starts to extrapolate out. And it's a blessing. It really is just a blessing to be part of that. And it comes from from a place in my heart where I needed it. I feel very fortunate for that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, when I did my first bolt score, I think it was like 11 seconds or something, and I was like, oh, is that good? I don't know. And then you see the chart, it's like, oh shit, that's terrible. And then what's been really good for me is to go on that journey myself, and you start to try the different techniques and the breathing exercises, and you put things into practice.
Yeah.
And that only just makes you like a better coach because you've gone through it. Because I personally struggled with panic a lot. So as soon as I would do the breath holds on empty lungs, it was not long before I was like millimeters away from a panic attack. And so I've had to work on that. And now I can't get there. I'll try really hard with the breath hold. It gets uncomfortable, but the panic's gone away. So it's good because sometimes you'll speak to people that have that kind of panic disorder, and it's nice to have anyway.
No, you're right. There's nothing like being able to literally, honestly and authentically say to somebody, I know what that feels, and this is how we're going to help you. And it's funny, as a coach at the time, when you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be teaching this, but I wish my bolt score was better. But actually, as you say, and you do have that, but actually being grateful and thankful, actually, if you're working through some hard stuff, that you say that makes you a stronger person, makes you a better coach. I say it to when I'm mentoring people a lot of the time, that there's a lot of people will struggle with, like, they don't feel they're good enough at the exercises, rather than as a coach, you need to be interested in how good are you at coaching it and helping somebody else be able to come better at it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a skill in itself, isn't it? Being able to like read the people, look at their breathing, and adapt and integrate it. It's a real privilege, and it's a real joy when you impact someone's life as well. And you get an email like a few months later going, "Oh my God, bolt score's gone up." And my dad is the one I always quote, because he watched the James Nestor interview, but on Joe Rogan. And he's like, "Oh, I've just saw this dude on Joe Rogan." I was like, "Yeah, no, I interviewed him myself." He's like, "Oh, did you?" I was like, "Oh." Anyway, typical dad thing. And then from that moment, because he would go out on his bike a lot, and he was like, "Oh, I can't nose breathe. I've got a deviated septum." So he's always, I was like, just try like, and just do like a minute and then build up. And as the year would progress, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did like 10 minutes." And now he's like, I do my whole bike ride with my mouth shut. And like, he thought that was impossible, a couple of years. It's really cool. You see somebody who's like 64, 65, getting that knowledge and implementing it, and obviously feeling better. So it's that sort of stuff, which is pretty cool. Have you played with any of the big breathing exercises? Because this is what I'm interested in, because I call it the breathing scale. So on one side, you've got like Breathwwork and Oxygen Advantage. And then on the other side, you've got like holotropic and rebirth.
Okay. When you said that, I was wondering where this was going with it.
And so like on this side, on the Breathwwork, you might go down to like 1 breath per minute, which is bonkers. You can really, really slow. And on this side, you might go as high as 100 breaths per minute. And there's a whole like load of benefits and stresses and things. Have you played with any of the big stuff?
So,
hey guys, just a very quick one. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. If you get any value from this podcast, then maybe you would like to be on my email newsletter. If you click on the link below, I won't spam you. I'll be sending you some free breathing exercises and anything I learn along the way. And you can unsubscribe at any time. So the link is down below, and I will welcome you on the newsletter. And let's get back on with the podcast. Cheers.
Short answer, yes. When you say big stuff, interesting. Just I find it interesting to use that term, because like the the answer being yes. So like a lot of people will have, and I like I've got coming across Wim Hof, and I like the cold. And you mentioned about like finding it difficult to a way into meditation, pairing the cold with the Oxygen Advantage breathing. So pairing cold with breathing light is my current best form of meditation. It basically forces that. And what I would hope that I can do is progress to being able to like not need the cold to get me into that state, if you know what I mean. But played around with the with some hyperventilation style Wim Hof breathing, holding the breath afterwards, and being like, how come you can hold your breath for ages? Like knowing, and very much for me being like, well, I feel like I should know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? It was that part of the process of me seeking what Patrick provides with the Oxygen Advantage. I don't get on massively well with it, or it just doesn't fit me or what I'm trying to achieve out of my breathing practice. But I've done a couple of sessions and had a couple of like quite interesting experiences with Jamie Clements, breath. You should get him on the. I'll send you his.
Okay.
What's his? I forget his Instagram now. Breath space or breath_space.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I'll hook you. You'll have a good interview with him. Another ex-rugby lad, actually.
Okay.
And there's some like the session he did with us was like conscious connected breathing. He's done the Oxygen Advantage, like he does functional breathing, but he does some, he calls it conscious connected breathing. We did there's three of us did a workshop, a whole day of various different breathing things. I did like more of a sports performance type of one. He did this at the end of the day, and I went to an interesting place. But it's not something where I'm currently at that I practice it a lot. I know that people are always going to come and ask questions around like, oh, what's the difference between Oxygen Advantage and Wim Hof, or have you tried this, or what's happening at that? So I definitely wanted to have experienced these things to be able to like authentically say, okay, this is what's happening. I know what that feels like. I've experienced that, and it's interesting. I heard we were talking about James Nestor before. I heard him. So I don't know how far he's got with it, but he was off. I heard him in an interview a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, but talking about wanting to understand that side, like the holotropic breathing, and understand what's going on further. And he was sort of theorizing that like maybe the levels of hypoxia go to the brain's almost like shutting down because it thinks it's dying.
Yeah.
And then that's so you have these like near death experience type things. That's the type of thing that I felt like I had a little bit. But he was like, there's not really any research. I'd like to know more. And he was offering to give his like body to that research. So I don't know how far he's got on that, but it'd be interesting. I've heard another guy mention, I don't know his full name, but on Instagram is breath illusion.
Okay.
Again, he'd be another good person to have on. He's done Buteyko. He does look cold as well. But he heard him talking about it from this perspective. He was saying that he was imagining it being that like you're doing the hyperventilation and stressing the body, and then the whole sort of like thing around like releasing trauma and that type of stuff. He was from his perspective, he was thinking that it was more a case of like your brain and body like doesn't want to breathe like that. It doesn't want all that stress. So it throws up all these like bad memories and traumas to try and make you stop.
Interesting.
That's what he was.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, which I thought was really interesting and a really nice perspective. But, you know, like James Nestor saying, until someone tries to do a bit more, is able to do some more research on it, we don't really know what is going on, but something's going on, that's for sure.
Something, yes. I don't know if I told you this in Ireland, but I'll tell you, I did a rebirthing session just before I got to Ireland.
No.
So that was mental. I won't go into full story now, but it was literally a week before, and we went to this place in Glastonbury, and the water's the same temperature as your body. It's 37 degrees, so it's really freaking hot. And you get in, and they're playing the womb noise in the background, says whoa, 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 and you start doing conscious connected breathing, and then you put a snorkel on and a nose clip, and you go face down in the water while there's two of them holding you. And I don't quite know what's going on, but your brain basically thinks it's being reborn again. Right. And so you go through the process of being a baby. I couldn't move my hands. Right. I stopped breathing for like 2 minutes.
So you feel like you're in the womb.
I can only describe it like it was a really extreme form of hypnosis. I was observing the whole thing, but I was way, way back in my brain watching it, going, "Oh, this is really freaking interesting. What's going to happen next?" And the bit I was telling somebody today was I was under the water doing the conscious connected breathing, and I could hear this girl screaming. And I thought, that's a bit rude because I'm doing my session. Why are you doing that? And it was me. And I was so disconnected that on every breath, I could just hear this like screaming going through the tube. Anyway, there was a whole like process. It took like 2 hours, and all this trauma was released. But I don't know if the trauma is being released, but there was definitely an emotional release. Anyway, I'm going back this weekend for like another dose of it. So I'm going to see what happens this time. But interesting.
Any ongoing, so not to interview you, but any Has anything changed for you after that?
When I'm in the gym, I've got a gym in my garage downstairs, and I'm normally got the Inception music playing, not Inception, Interstellar. You know, the docking scene from Interstellar, where he's, so I've got that on loop, and I'm just like lifting the heaviest weights I can. Every now and again, I'll just burst into tears, and I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." And it's not, I'm not sad or anything. So
Right.
it's weird. It's brought this like emotional thing to the surface a little bit, but I
Right.
don't know. Again,
It
it's a good question. I don't know what to do with that information. But I'm going back this weekend, so I'm going to ask them some questions and do a bit of podcast about it. But in either way, I'm trying to sample, like you know, I want to sample different breathwork bits. Anyway, different things. So let's get back on. Yeah,
speaking of crying.
Yeah. Well, let's talk of Ring of Fire then, my friends. So
Well, that brings us on nicely.
That's the segue. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to just cue people up what it is and why you do it, and then let's talk about what happened on the actual few days.
You spend 3 days crying, looking at your feet as you run around Anglesey in North Wales. No, it's. I wrote a blog about it for Ultra Running magazine that I finished today, and actually titled the article. That they'd asked me to write an article. I titled the article. I hope they run with it. The story of not being an ultra runner, because yes, it's an ultra marathon. It's multi-day, so it's 3 days. It's 135 miles in total, which is 216 kilometers across the 3 days. You run around the island of Anglesey, which is a coastal path. There's 4,000 meters of elevation, so it's like 4 times up Snowdon in the 3 days.
Wow!
So it's pretty tasty in terms of the terrain, and it's 90% trails. There's a little bit on the road on one section because there's isn't really a coastal path. But yeah, it was. If you're an ultra runner, it's a different kettle of fish. But me being an ex-rugby player, after my brain injury, it took me a year to be able to run without my head injuries, symptoms coming back. But last October, literally a year ago, as we record this, I ran my first marathon. And I really enjoyed the process because I was sticking to a training regime that I completely made up myself that was focused on the breath. And I was enjoying getting back into running. I had a bit of a thing of like, I'd always as a kid, like wanted to do a marathon or just thought that I should do a marathon. I've always loved sports and stuff. And when I was playing pro rugby, you can't go off and do a different sport because it'll interfere with your training. So never really had the opportunity before. And yeah, I'd signed up to this trail off-road marathon last year and did that and really enjoyed just trying to using running as a way to train your breathing. Like day to day, as you're sat here now or someone's listening to this, just sat in their car or whatever, you probably can't even notice your breathing because you're not doing anything. It's almost just in the background going under the radar. But as soon as you start running, and running being nice and cyclical like your breath is, just your body needs more oxygen, you're creating more carbon dioxide, you notice your breathing straight away. And that became a nice way for me to just experience the breath, connect a bit deeper internally to that breath and use it as a way to train better breathing. And so I didn't push my pace. I was never trying to reach a particular time or particular speed. I gradually got better as my breath got better, but it was a way to just focus on the more efficient I can be with my breathing. It was helping my running economy, but the more efficient I can be with my breathing, like I never feel tired. I never feel out of breath. Like that was my approach to the marathon. In training for that marathon, I only managed to get up to a half marathon, which people had said wasn't a great idea. Like you need to be able to go further, but I completed that marathon reasonably well. After doing that, the idea of running the next day, I mean, I could barely walk the next day, like I was bad, but it only really took me a day. And then the following, like that was on the Sunday. Then on the Monday, I actually did a training session. I'd recovered real good, but the idea of running another marathon the next day, just sort of, because I just couldn't understand how people do these multi events. And I'd seen a documentary on BBC of the world's toughest mountain race, which is in North Wales, was in Wales, called the Dragon's Back, where they run from North Wales to South Wales, Conway to Cardiff Castle over 6 days, over the highest peaks in Wales. My mum and both my mum and dad are from North Wales. My sister lives there. Like I love that. It brings back very fond memories. And I was like encapsulated by this thing, going, "Oh God, I've run a marathon. These people are running like multi-marathon, like 2 marathons a day for 6 days."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I was like, I'm not stupid enough to sign up to that. But then we found this smaller event, Anglesey, where my sister lives. Oh, I'd love to running around Anglesey for 3 days. That sounds beautiful. Like, oh, I love the sea and the coastal path. Amazing. Right. How far is it? Okay. Well, that's quite hard, but I'll train for it. Like I train for this other thing. I'll stick to my process, the breathing, and training was great and everything. I just didn't do enough distance in hindsight. But yeah, the story of not being an ultra runner, meaning like I've done one now, but I'm not one. And I definitely displayed that if someone saw me on day 3. Like the furthest I'd run in a day before this was 30 miles. And day 1 was 35 miles. So day 1 was already a PB. But having done 30, like I knew I could do 35. And day 1 was okay. It was harder. It took me 8.5 hours, and I was hoping to do it in 7.5 hours on day 1. You had a 9-hour cutoff. So I was half an hour within the cutoff, but it was later than I wanted. And it was harder than I wanted, which then obviously you know that's going to carry on into day 2. Yeah, and it just sort of gradually got worse from there.
Dude, first of all, man, I think you cut yourself a bit of slack. You are an ultra runner. It's like you can say you're a marathoner, can't you? When you've run a marathon, you're an ultra runner.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like when I played rugby, I never used to like sort of, you say like, but people ask you what you do for a living. And I was like, the problem with saying I'm a rugby player when you're playing rugby is that what 2 things. One, what about when you're not a rugby player anymore? Because you can't do that for your whole life. And then secondly, it's great when you play well at the weekend. But what about when you play badly? What about when you get dropped? What about when you're not in a team? What about when you're injured? You play this roller coaster that's a week on week. There's not many jobs where literally imagine if you went to work and every week, everyone within your team at work, plus your boss, plus a load of just people come and watch you, and then a load of them just tell you you're crap. And when you've said I'm a rugby player, when you're bad at rugby, you then take it personally as like, I'm crap as a person. So like coming away from that and then like just taking on another new label. But equally, like my whole background of being from rugby, like I just see myself as still an ex-rugby player. I could go and run another 100 ultra marathons in the rest of my life. I still wouldn't call myself an ultra runner.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, the closest thing I've got to that, and it's not that close, is I worked in telesales for like a number of years. Awful job, because like the highs are great when you make a deal and you get some dosh, but then the lows are awful because everyone's getting deals around you. Your boss is just calling you a piece of poo, and you just like everyone's against you, and so like, and then you just think I'm the worst salesperson in the world. So it's not obviously in the same ballpark, but that's when you said that, it just reminded me of
no, it
awful job. Plays with mental health, that did. So look, why did you do that then? What was the purpose of that? So there obviously was the breath purpose, but there was a deeper meaning, wasn't there, behind you raising the cash?
It's strange in that it dramatically changed as time went on. Like it was I guess on the surface level to start with, it was a new challenge, something I'd never done before. I'd not really challenged myself like this type of thing for ages. It gave you gave you something to train for. Like the amount of running I'd done dramatically increased because you always knew nagging in the back of your mind, even when it was like a year away. It was like, you've got that massive running around Anglesey, you better go and do some running. So on the surface level, it acted as that. There was the whole thing of like, I really enjoyed the running to connect with the breath, and just that area of the world in Anglesey in North Wales was very, say, special for our family. And going there to visit my sister and then do some training runs and that type of thing. And then I guess things changed in March. My dad got really ill with cancer and passed away in April. And I lived at home for a month to help my mum look after him. And I guess not just during that time, but afterwards, that running is just that little, like, people, I know a lot of people have these types of things where, you know, running is almost like the meditation or just the time away, or just a time to just like be on your own and be with your thoughts and try and process some things. It sort of like the running became that for me. And then it being almost like in my dad's back garden type of thing, from his, you know, the type of where he would be as a kid and things. And I was like, I went into that event thinking that I was going to have myself challenged, like personally, and I was very curious and interested to see, when you are like scraping the bottom of the barrel of like what you've got left in the tank, like where's the body and mind going to go to? And very interesting where the mind was going to go to, because, as I know, the body's the body. And I was just totally underprepared for like what that ended up being, because not because I wasn't hoping, I wasn't trying for it to be. It effectively turned out that I just was not prepared physically or mentally for, let's say that even just the lack of sleep. Like I slept for about 10 or 20 minutes it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the Friday night, Saturday night, 10, 20 minutes sleep, that was it. And I just never, like the first day, 35 miles, I'd never ran that far before. The second day was 67 miles. Well, that was more than twice as far as I'd ever run ever. And then the last day was 33 miles, which again was further than I'd ever run. So it was like this compounding of like basically PBs of like you've never done. And the body, what I've learned, one of the things I've learned is that the body responds like well once it's done something, but when it's to do something it's never done before, like 3 times in a row, it's not a great idea. And I wasn't, that wasn't necessarily the plan, but it put me in a place where on the morning of the third day, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get out of the bed. I was in this camper van at my sister's, and I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to go to the start line. I felt sick. I was shaking. I said to my wife, I can't go. I'm like I really didn't want it to get to this, but I can't do this. And she was like, just try and get up, otherwise you'll regret it. And I got up, but then it was like, it didn't get any better. I mean, I was on the toilet at my sister's house, and my sister came in again. It was like I had these like 3 angels, to be fair, where I was sat on the toilet. I couldn't even poo. Like I was literally had nothing in the tank, and I was crying. And she came in to wish me good luck for the last day, but obviously could see us. And I said, Susie, I can't do it. Can't do it. And she said, just try and get in the car. That's the first step. And I sort of like blubberingly, I was like, because she didn't challenge me at all. She didn't say anything other than just actually break it. Because I'd broke this whole thing down into the different checkpoints and how far each thing was but I'd never actually considered like getting to the start was actually getting to the car, and then someone else is going to drive the car. So don't worry about that next step. But then there was getting out of the car was difficult. But yeah, she broke it down to a step that I could take. And even when I was in the car, I was like, this doesn't mean I'm doing this thing. because like I can't walk, I couldn't get my left shoe on because my foot was swollen from a rock I'd kicked on the first day, and blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. But somehow we got through this thing, and what it ended up being was the opposite of like a personal challenge. I was not just like broken and couldn't do it. I'd literally, in my mind, was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I've given up. I'm thinking about what's the worst case scenario. I'm literally saying to myself, you're an idiot. Why did you think you could do this thing? And I was embarrassed. I was hugely embarrassed. When we got to the race briefing on day 3, I couldn't look at anyone in the face, mainly because I was like sat crying still. But I disrespected the event. And by disrespecting the event, I disrespected everyone else that was there. Everyone else, there was 2 of us sat down. The other one was about a 65-year-old bloke. Everyone else was standing, walking, chatting, like, okay, people be stiff and whatnot. So they're going through, but they were okay. And actually they deserved to be there. Whereas I didn't. Like, you're not supposed to be in that type of state. And I don't recommend it. And I mean, it took about 20 minutes for us to do the first kilometer, I think, which is like beyond slow walking. But somehow we got to the first checkpoint. There was 3 more on the last day. And it was only because of the support of a number of family, but number one was my wife. And I went into the event thinking it was going to be a challenge, and that I was going to personally go through and have to go through a physical and mental experience. And what it ended up being was just totally reliant on another human to pull me through. It was just beautiful that human was my wife. And we recorded some reflections because the other thing that was quite embarrassing was I had 2 guys filming it for a little mini documentary we were making. And I was like, and I had 2 companies paying for him, for the guys to film. I was like, what? On day 3, I'm going like, you idiot. Like, not only did you turn up to this thing disrespecting it, you've also got 2 companies to pay money to have 2 guys film it. What are you going to say to them? What's the story of this? Oh, we tried hard and we gave it our best, but we weren't good enough. Like, it's not story. It's not going to. That's just what this is for. And yeah, I was mentally in a very, very, very bad place. And interesting. I believe in positive thinking and all that sort of stuff. But one thing I learned was thinking was almost a waste of energy. The only thing that mattered was like taking an actionable step, which the instruction which I'd given, like, so simple and so small, you could actually do it. And then, yeah, we family there supporting and actually being forced into a place where almost like everything's stripped away. And I was like, I got nothing. I can't give you anything. And just taking one step at a time. But literally my wife, like 50 or 100 meters ahead, carrying my food, carrying my drink, just encouraged me to come. She did 80 in the end, 80 of the 135 miles.
Wow.
The furthest she'd run ever was 15 miles. And she hadn't prepared to do it. That she started running with me early doors on day 2 because she knew she could just see that I needed it. And yeah, say it was. We'd recorded some reflections with the guys last week for sort of like the end of this documentary, and Jack, the filmmaker, was just probing some very simple questions, and he managed to draw out a parallel that I'd not realized, or drew out of me this parallel that, like, there was just this beautiful period that was sad, but also beautiful when my dad was dying, where he was stripped of absolutely everything. Like, there was nothing, stripped down to nothing, and all he wanted was my mum, and all he needed was her. That was it, nothing. And it was beautiful. And I still, when I sort of say or think about it, was not a, I feel bad about it in terms of almost finding this parallel, because it's, this was just a stupid run. I wasn't dying or anything. This was like my dad's life. But there was an element of like, I had nothing, and there was only just one person that I wanted, and that was my wife, and she did it. And yeah, it took it from a personal challenge of this run to like literally like a team effort, like spearheaded by her. But then there was like my mother, my mother-in-law, both my sisters, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, like everyone there just like doing their bit to literally just drag me around this thing. And that's why it was certainly far from me being an ultra runner. I haven't seen the raw footage of what the guys have captured for the documentary. I'm very excited to see what that's like. But a good way to describe it was like when across the finish line, my mum gave me a hug that was like, it was as if I died and come back to life. That's the way she, and so yeah, look, it was not an individual experience. It was I've been reflecting a lot on this, and it was like we connected deeply, and that's the type of thing that I've realized like I'm searching for. It's almost like I didn't know what I thought I knew what I wanted from, or why I was going into that event, and it gave me something completely different. And on reflection, it's like, actually, yeah, I didn't know that that's what I was searching for or wanted, but it gave me exactly what I needed. Because I'm someone that's like, I could be socially quite awkward. Like if you may or may not have seen me in different lights at that event. Like we were at that Oxygen Advantage event where, if I don't know people and knowing new people for the first time, like it's not on purpose. I just find it difficult to make those connections. Like when I don't know, it can take me a while to feel comfortable with people, to then actually be myself, and then be vulnerable enough to actually like, really connect.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, that for whatever reason, that's just what my personality is like. Whereas when I know everyone in a room, and then I can just, and I'm a Gemini, so there's like two sides to me. There's like, I'll be the joker and what have you, but then there's that other side. And what I don't recommend it. I'm not proud of it at all, or happy about it in a way. Like the fact that I was so underprepared, that event was just beyond my current ability to run for that long. But what it did was it took me to a place of like total vulnerability, where then that allowed, I don't know what even the word is, of like, for the opposite of total. I tried to explain this the other day, of like, if you fall over and you need me to pick you up from the ground, I'll pick you up from the ground because I want to help you. But I don't throw you up in the air, into the sky, into the clouds, up into heaven. I just pick you up to where you need to be, which is back on your feet. But if you're so far down, do you know what I mean? Like, only as broken as you are is only how much help and love and support can I show you. So if you go to the point of being like at the end, then someone can show you that they can bring you all the way back up. That's what it felt like to me. Sorry, I've just gone there.
That's beautiful. What do you take away from that? Is it what's the message that, or the lesson for you? Is it love? Is it a partnership? Is it something else? What have you walked away from that with?
I think for still trying to work elements of it out for sure. There's some like surface level practical things of like, if I do try and do another event, what I'm definitely going to do. But no, the main things is like that understanding of what's the day of like, okay, so I am searching for deeper connections and an appreciation of like, okay, that doesn't come natural to me. And so, but I don't want to wait until doing another event like that, because it wasn't good for my health. Like all of my brain injury symptoms started coming back, and I had a headache for 6 days afterwards. It's not good for the body. So I don't want to have to go there physically, sort of abuse myself to get myself to a point of being vulnerable enough to literally like take all the help in the world that people will show you. And but it's opened up a bit of a realization of like, okay, like how do we start to cultivate those types of like connection experiences, or being able to like, go deep with someone.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, mate, thank you so much for sharing. You're a great storyteller, and I was captivated. And obviously, I've seen some of this and heard this before. I can't wait to watch the documentary. Have you ever come across the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger? You ever heard of that or read that book?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
no.
dude, it's a beautiful book. I'll try and get this wrong. I think I don't know if he was in the military, but he went around, and there's a couple of examples. One of them he gave was after September 11th in Manhattan, suicide dropped, and people getting medication for depression dropped, actually got better. And then the other example he talked about was like I think it was like during like when Croatia, when there was all that war stuff going off in the like the 90s. People reflect on it, saying it was a really horrible time, but I really miss it because I knew my neighbors, we were together, we were bonding, and these kind of traumatic events, they kind of brought people together to the point where people weren't, were feeling mentally better. So it just kind of brought me back to that a little bit.
Right.
Where you stripped yourself down a bit, you put yourself in this vulnerable position, but through that came all this like additional love and deeper connection. And
so like a good example, as some people that know me well would laugh at this, of like, I've been described in the past as like, I'm an awkward hugger, in that like I say, I can just have that like social awkwardness, but like if you'd have seen me at any point during that, if I saw you and I knew you on that run, like you were getting hugged and you were getting big hug, because it was like almost like I could like your energy like it was just like I was just like craving it. I just like needed it. And
why do you think that was?
I think there's a physical touch that energy is shared. There's a physical touch gives us a difference in connection for sure. And like, but it's funny. So it's not like now I'm like just this totally different human being that goes around hugging everyone, but it's like, it's almost like I always say this, even when teaching someone about breathing, it's like first step's always awareness. It's like in a normal setting now, I'll probably still be a pretty awkward hugger, but I've got an awareness of like what I can do and allow myself to be vulnerable. And what feels just right. It's weird because it's like, about 5 minutes after we crossed the finish line and everyone finished crying, I sat down with Catherine and I said to her, that's Mrs. Jacko, wife, I said to her, why do we do these things? And when I said we, I didn't just mean like me and her, I just meant everyone here. Like, why do we do these things? I did have an appreciation, like this was just a stupid run. But there's just something in an experience like that you just, I feel like getting closer to like what are we here for? Like, what's life really about?
Yeah.
And we know we're designed to live in community with other people.
Yeah.
And, you know, rather than strength being like, I can do it. And, you know, typically in our culture, particularly in Western culture, like, you know, someone that can, like, as strong as they can, you know, they don't rely on other people and they can do it themselves. And like, I'm feeling like it's the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this realization about 5 years ago. Have you ever come across the Camino de Santiago?
Yes, we would love to do
Oh,
that.
dude! So I did that.
Have you done it?
Yeah, it's I've got two bands on my wrist, and one of them's from the Wim Hof retreat I did, and the other one's from the Camino. And that
How
was
far's the full? Did you do the full thing?
full thing. It was 500 miles in 33 days, and so it's not in your league, but I was exhausted, and
no, that was 4 times further than I went.
But it was like you had your backpack, and I really overpacked. And on one of the days I did 46 kilometers because I was trying to double up at the end, and that was about 28 days into it. So I'm exhausted.
Wow,
I remember just passing out that day. But the things for me that stood out were the community, because I made friends. I went by myself and I made a group of friends. And anybody you speak to on this Camino, you just ask the question, why are you walking? And boom, you have this deep conversation. It's not like, oh, how was your Monday? Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, how was it's like a real conversation. The sun was shining. We were eating together every night, groups of people. And I walked away from it going, people are the most important thing. I hadn't valued that before. I thought it was money. I thought money was the most important thing. I was like, it's people. Yeah. So I've grown up. I was like, because I remember thinking, if I'm rich, I'll be happy. I'm not rich, but I remember thinking money will bring. And I was like, no, that you can be a miserable millionaire, but you can, if you've got family and friends and connection and community, and we've lost all that, haven't we? We're in this position now where we're all isolated, and it's, but we're all waking up to it. So it's exciting times. But dude, congratulations, mate. Thank you for sharing that. You were raising money for charity as well, weren't you? You want to just tell people, and can they still donate to that?
I can link put the link in the show notes. So Petals Charity was the charity, and they provide support for families going through losses of child, and I'm forgetting the name. I'm forgetting the word now. Miscarriages. Sorry. So one of those things that is, not spoken about a lot. For obvious reasons, but then it therefore doesn't, get potentially the awareness that it needs and support those people have. And I remember there was one finding out, like, from a sister, and it was like, didn't tell me till months and months and months afterwards everything that she'd gone through. And then speaking to other, whenever you ask a friend if they've been through it, the chances are exceptionally high. That was the charity we're doing it for. And with the Just Giving page is still available for people to download. And I had a message from we'd raised like £1,600 so far. Amazing. Which it's funny, these things, aren't they? Of like, I've done a lot of fundraising in the past for Headway, which is a brain injury charity. And we're talking more sort of when I had my brain injury almost like 10 years ago, and I think we raised like 30 grand one year. It was like, it's hard to raise money for charities these days. And the Petals, they said, look, we're a very small charity, and they were like, £1,600 is going to make a dramatic difference to like what we can do over the next 6 months. It was like a lot of people working part-time, so it would pay for someone's wages for 6 months that were only doing 1 day a week or whatever. They were exceptionally grateful, and I'm just grateful to be able to do things like this, that my body would allow me to do that. And then everyone was there to drag me around to let me do that. So if anyone would like to donate anything, then it would be very, very greatly received. And yeah, if you can put the link in the show notes,
yeah,
that'd
for
be
sure.
amazing, mate.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people watching and listening to this right now, that link will be down below. So yeah, if you can afford a couple of quid, a couple of dollars, that'd be much appreciated for the Petals charity. Dude, what a story! What a conversation! I've got a couple of questions. Like, I just have some kind of final little segments at the end of the podcast where I just ask a couple of questions, just a bit of fun, really, just to close us off. Obviously, we talked about Patrick's books and James's books. We'll put those to one side. What book would you recommend to people in the world of like breath or fitness or anything really? What book would you recommend to people to have a look at?
It is a good. This is one I've really enjoyed. It's a sentimental value for me in terms of like, so when my dad passed, and I said I was still at home, and had loads of books in all different bookcases. So I don't know, for whatever reason I was trying to help. I think we was like moving some stuff out of some different rooms and just helping mum and whatnot. And then so they'd be like, when you're like moving stuff within a house and you like end up, there was like a bookcase on the landing that wouldn't normally be there. And there was just some things that caught me. I was like, what's this book? And what's this book? And my mum would be, oh, your dad got that. And I don't know if he read it or he was always buying books, she'd say, and never reading them. But so there's one, the title is called, There Are Places in the World Where Kindness, I need to get this right. A place in the world where kindness is more important than rules. That's it. There are places in the world where kindness are more important than rules. And it's by Carlo Ravioli, or I'm going to pronounce it. I don't think it's actually Ravioli, but it's something like that. And he's a Italian philosopher and quantum physicist.
Oh, wow.
Which is an amazing combination. And so the whole book is, I don't know, 20 or more little chapters. They're completely unrelated other than they're his musings about things, everything from like Einstein to COVID. Each is just like 3 or 4 or 5 pages. So you could just pick up any bit, look at the title and go, oh, that looks like interesting. And is brilliant, cool. Fascinating book. There you go.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, lovely. I'll check that out and I'll put that down if people want to have a look. This one's a bit cheesy. If you're stuck on a desert island, you can only bring one breathing exercise with you. What would it be?
If you're stuck on a desert island, you can only breathe one. It'd be breathing light. Yeah. So you'd have to, it couldn't not be, I think.
Yeah, nice bit of breathing light. Yeah. And what does, I mean, we in OA, we say more about, we don't really use breath work. We say it's breathing, don't we? But like, what does breathing mean to you? Or what does breath work mean to you? What does that conjure up? Or what's your kind of explanation of what that would mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess anything to do with influencing part of your breath, the inhale, the exhale, or the pause, like there's those 3 areas of breath, anything that you're doing with that to impact your physiology, or if we can include sort of mentality, psychology, like the mental and physical aspects of your body.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool, man. Any final words before we call it an evening?
I do not. I obviously don't have a breathing podcast, but I was thinking of this the other day of like, if I did, like a quick fire, like they've asked there, those questions of to go, if you had to choose, so this is me doing it the other way around for you. If you had to choose, breathe in or breathing out, or holding your breath, what would you choose?
Oh, I really enjoy holding my breath at the minute,
There you go.
That's a good one.
You can have that. Add that to the quick fire.
Have you ever done very quickly? Because we've got to draw us to the end. But have you ever done static apnea? You ever play with that where it's like holding your breath underwater?
But really interestingly, and this shows you like the psychological element of breathing. I have held my breath walking, so with some metabolic demand, for like 90 seconds. Got, I don't know how many steps that was, 150 steps or whatever. Like, so an Oxygen Advantage breath hold. Holding my breath underwater, guess how long after I find it really difficult?
Oh, I'm going to say if you did 90 seconds, I bet you can do 3 minutes.
About 10 seconds underwater.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I panic.
Yeah.
There's no difference. I mean, and it would be, I wouldn't be walking, I'd be static.
Yeah.
So metabolic demand none.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Did you have any issues with being in the water as a kid that you're aware of?
Not like I've had a. It feels like I'm scared of a drowning incident that I can't remember.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't drown as a kid because I'm still here.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, there's I'm not a big fan of the water, but and I did it gradually. I just generally, and by the way, anyone listens to this, you don't do this by yourself. You do this with like a trained professional. But I was with the world champion guy that held his breath for 10 minutes, and he was teaching me how to do it. So I did a retreat with him a couple of months ago. And so you're going in the water and you're doing what we would call cadence breathing. You're doing conscious coherence breathing, and then you are going face down while you've got your buddy watching you, and you're just holding your breath as long as you can. And as the water's hitting all your face, it activates all these dive sensors that just slows your heart rate down. And you go through a real mindfulness practice because you're fighting with yourself. How long can you hold your breath for? Because you know you've got loads of oxygen. So that's like my favorite thing to do at the minute, because it's nice. That's my mindfulness thing. It's like, because you are, because there was a girl there, and she's known
that's your meditation.
That's the meditation. Now, right? Yeah.
Nice.
She was the mermaid. She's called the Mermaid of Austria. This girl, she has this mono fin, and she swims down. She's a young girl. She's 22, 23, but she's like going to be probably a world champion, I'd imagine. But anyway, she was doing 6-minute breath holds. It's like, how are you doing that? That is mental. And she's saying she believes 75% of it was like psychological. You just got to calm yourself. And the dude that did the breath, last bit I'll just leave on because this blew my mind. He's tried all the different emotions to get him that world record, and he tried every different thing, tried to be angry and sad and joyful, and he said the thing that got him to 10 minutes was thinking happy thoughts, not joy, not gratitude, happy. So he tried them all, and that was just really interesting to me. Like, happy thoughts gave him that additional power to hold his breath for like 10 minutes, you know. Anyway, just thought I'd leave it on
but
that.
It's fast, isn't it? Like, it's something I am fascinated with as well, like that psychological element to your breathing. Like, we'll talk a lot about chemosensitivity and blah blah blah, and that's not to say that's not true, but the bit that you can't measure, or that's hard to measure, like why I can't hold my breath very long in water, why he, when he thinks of happy thoughts, holds his breath. There's a hugely untapped area there that I think I don't understand, but I do think is fascinating.
For sure, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for giving up the time.
Thank you for having me.
No, man. And people need to check out your documentary when it comes out, and I'm going to put all the links down below. And once again, people, make sure you subscribe to your stuff. I will link to that. And you've got an app that they can go and pay for and do all your breathing exercises. What's that called?
Pro Breathwork. So you can search Pro Breathwork on the Apple or Android store. But the foundations of breathing is completely free. So there's nine modules within that. Lots of different videos, recordings to listen to, follow along, improve the way that you breathe. As I said, to change the way you think, feel, move, and perform.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you click on all those links, and we'll see you on the next Breathcast. Cheers, Jacko. Thank you, mate.
Bye. Cheers.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that with David, Jacko. Wow. Now, here's the things. His links are down below. So I want you to now please click on the link to his documentary and watch The Ring of Fire. It's a wonderful thing. It's right here on YouTube as well. If you're listening to this, you can pop on over to YouTube and you can watch it. It's completely free. It's beautifully made. A lot of effort went into this. And it's important, I think, to tell his story, why he did what he did. And you've heard the director's commentary, I guess, on this podcast. Now, let's go and watch it. Just a couple of asks from me. Please, if you've not done so already, please could you leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever. It takes a few seconds, a few clicks of your thumb. And actually, it just helps us grow the awareness as a podcast. The bigger we get the podcast, the more guests we can get. The bigger the guest names that we can get, the more value that I can bring you. So please do that. If there's somebody you think might benefit from functional breathing and maybe hasn't learned that yet, please share this podcast with them as well. And finally, are you on my newsletter? I send you updates, discounts, sneak peeks. I've got a big sneak peek coming out soon, a real biggie. This podcast is going out now, 2nd, 3rd of Feb. In less than a week, there's a big podcast release. There's something happening. So get on my newsletter. The links are down below. Anyway, I'll see you over on Jacko's channel now. Let's watch The Ring of Fire. Thanks, everybody. Bye.